Good evening, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Friday night, November 7, 2014, around 8:18 p.m. in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's a cloudy night, and it's still a little breezy out, and it's going to be about freezing in Billerica tomorrow morning, but we're going to rebound to close to 50. Get out and rake those leaves in the Merrimack Valley area. You have 4 more weeks to rake them up, put them in bags, and get them composted before the winter sets in. Some news to report: the Arizona Cardinals have re-signed quarterback Carson Palmer to a 3-year contract extension worth $50 million. The Arizona Cardinals are on top of the NFC West with a 7-1 record, and they're doing so good this year. I think they're the odds-on favorite to represent the Super Bowl for the NFC, in my opinion. And that's about it on that. My third and final video blog subject of the night is about one of the most famous sports announcers of all time, the late, great Curt Gowdy. Curt Gowdy called a lot of Major League Baseball games and a lot of NFL football games for years and years, and he called some of the most famous sporting events of all time. Curt was born and he grew up in Wyoming. He played basketball in high school, and one year he led all the basketball players in the state of Wyoming in scoring. He went to the University of Wyoming majoring in business statistics, and he played basketball and tennis while at University of Wyoming. He graduated in 1942, and Curt wanted to be a fighter pilot in the Air Force to fight in World War II, but he was medically discharged from the Air Force because he had a back condition, and he started his professional sports broadcasting career in 1943 by calling high school games in Wyoming for a local radio station. And he worked for a local radio station in Wyoming doing sports. And then he wrote for like a newspaper as an editor for the Wyoming Eagle. And then in 1946, he moved to Oklahoma City, Curt did, to work for a radio station he called University of Oklahoma football games. He also called University of Oklahoma state basketball games as well, and he did minor league baseball for about 3 years in Oklahoma City. Then in 1949, he got his first Major League Baseball play-by-play job. He was the backup announcer to Mel Allen for New York Yankees broadcast on the radio. In 1950, he did the New York Giants baseball games on the radio. Then in 1951, Curt moved to Boston, and for the next 14 years, Curt was the lead announcer for the Boston Red Sox in television and radio. He got synonymous with the Red Sox. That's his most famous baseball job, working for the Boston Red Sox. And from in 1960 and through 1964, Curt Gowdy worked for ABC doing AFL games. He was the #1 play-by-play announcer for the AFL on ABC. Also, he did some college football games in 1960 and 61 for ABC as well. And he had an association with ABC as well, hosting the American Sportsman show for over 20 years on ABC. In 1965 was the last year Curt did Red Sox games because he signed a contract with NBC Sports. Curt became the #1 play-by-play announcer for the AFL on NBC because they moved the broadcast from ABC to NBC, and they got a big contract doing that. It was over $45 million. That's big money back then. And also, in 1966, Curt Gowdy became the #1 play-by-play announcer of Major League Baseball games on NBC. He did the big game of the week, the All-Star game, and the World Series. He did that for the next 10 years as the #1 play-by-play announcer for Major League Baseball. He virtually called all regular season games and All-Star games and won leagues, championship series, and the World Series for NBC. And he also did some other stuff for NBC, hosting the Winter Olympic Games and the Summer Games for a couple of times. He also did NCAA basketball and stuff like that. Curt called a lot of Rose Bowls for NBC as well. In 1979, Curt left NBC Sports. He was traded to like CBS Sports for the rights for Don Quickie, and Curt did 2 years of doing NFL games on CBS. He also did some Major League Baseball games for CBS Radio for their game of the week as well. Then he started to cut down as becoming a national announcer. He still worked regional games for ABC for college football for a few years in the early 80s. He also still did Patriots games on the radio for WHDH AM in 1987, and he also hosted a few other shows like The Way It Was on PBS. He was also on doing history perspectives for Inside the NFL for HBO for a few years and stuff like that. And Curt Gowdy has called some of the most famous plays in history for Major League Baseball and NFL. He called Ted Williams' final home run in 1960. He called for a Super Bowl. He called the 1969 World Series with the Miracle Mets. He called the 1969 Super Bowl, the second Super Bowl, when Joe Namath guaranteed a victory. He also was the announcer for the famous Heidi game on November 17th, 1968. And he also was called the Immaculate Reception game in 1972. He also called Hank Aaron's famous 715th home run in 1974. He also called the Steelers for Super Bowl win in 1975. He called the 1975 World Series and other stuff. And Curt's one of the most decorated play-by-play announcers of all time. He's in 22 Hall of Fames or Lifetime Achievement Awards for Curt Gowdy, including the Ford Frick Award for Broadcasting Excellence for the Baseball Hall of Fame, the Pete Rozelle Award for Broadcasting Excellence for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He also won the Curt Gowdy Media Award for the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, and so many other awards. There was actually a state park named after Curt Gowdy in his home state of Wyoming. He actually owned radio stations as well. He owned WCCM 800 in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and also FM 93.7, which got changed its code letters to WCWY for M, for CGY for Curt Gowdy. And he also owned radio stations in Florida and Wyoming and stuff like that. And Curt Gowdy passed away in 2006, and his funeral procession was around Fenway Park, and he was buried at Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And Curt Gowdy's probably the most famous sports announcer ever to come out of New England and stuff, because he called the Red Sox games for 14 years, and that's amazing. Stuff like that. He's probably on the list of maybe the top announcer of all time for baseball and football from many people's perspectives, and it was good that they had a versatile announcer like Curt Gowdy in the 60s and 70s. And he called every major game, especially if you were NBC Sports watching it back then. Curt Gowdy was the man for NBC Sports with Major League Baseball and NFL football. And that's about it on that. I hope you've been enjoying these video blogs, Facebook friends, and YouTube followers. I've been loved doing these. They'll continue on. Tomorrow I'll have 3 more. I won't tell you what they are. And to the final status of Facebook, if you're my Facebook friends and YouTube followers, don't forget, I want questions. Please send me your questions. Private message me on my Facebook page or YouTube page. And coming soon will be blogs about Julie Brockton, Local 6. Julie has nice legs and a great smile. Heidi Lee Pratt who has the nicest smile in the world and the best legs, Janelle Tobin, Crystal Pistol, Dee Patel, Last Week No Boss, Tony Ramos, Don Beauregard, Bruce Cronin, want to put a wager on that, Richie, and Angelo. Cool is a guy who comes in the market basket every single day, spends millions of dollars in scratch tickets like it's going out of style. Have a good night, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. See you tomorrow with more of these video blogs. Bye.